Hello and welcome to the LD17 YouTube channel. We are coming to you from sunny Arizona. We're coming from you from the city of Tucson and the Pima County. But most importantly, we are members of LD17. That means Legislative District 17. And I want you to remember that because this district is key to turning the Arizona legislature blue. And today I am bringing you three Wonder Women. They might not like that I'm calling them that, but they have been the highest petition gatherers in our legislative district. And you're going to say, what petition? What are they doing? We're going to explain all of that to you right now. But first, I want to introduce them. I'm going to start with Holly Lyons. Holly Lyons is a superstar politico. She might not think she is, but she is. She's been engaged in the political process for a long time. She is actually a teacher and retired Air Force communications and computer systems officer. Twice ran for the state legislature and held several positions in the Arizona Democratic Party, including state senior vice chair and county chair. And she is a super organizer. She lives in Saddlebrook, and the people who are on her team also live in Saddlebrook. And she's taking those years of experience and still putting them to great use by organizing volunteers in her community. One of those volunteers is Sharon Cotter. Sharon is an intensive care nurse and later a data warehousing consultant for IBM, a stockbroker, and a cost analyst. The team data manager who creates and doggedly updates spreadsheets and tracking information. She's going to tell you more about that as we continue this interview. And the other person in our conversation today is Clara Corden. Clara is a retired lawyer, 40 years practice with specialty in the areas of women's rights and employment discrimination. Unexpectedly, second career working to turn Arizona blue and to rid the world of MAGA. I'm just going to say MAGA, period. And I'm just happy to welcome Holly, Sharon, and Claire to this discussion. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I've already done a little pitch for why it's so important that we're doing this discussion today. And we're going to talk with Claire. She's going to share a screen because she made a presentation to other people in our state that are involved in the AAA petition signing that is occurring all over the state of Arizona. And this is such an important endeavor because if you're paying any attention to the national news, the state news, or your local news, you will know that eyes have been on Arizona because the Arizona Supreme Court, in their not so infinite wisdom, decided to reenact an old law that has been on the books since 1864. But even before they did that, some smarter people have been working very judiciously to respond actively to what happened with our National Supreme Court. As you know, the National Supreme Court decided to reverse Roe v. Wade, which gave women in this country the right to have an abortion. So since that ruling, the people in this state have been working actively to figure out the best strategy in order to overturn that ruling, and in this state, to codify the right to have an abortion for all women. And they were so smart. A consortium of people got together and did the research. We knew there was a possibility that our Supreme Court would act exactly as they did last week. And so in advance of that ruling, people got together and decided the best thing we needed to do is to let our electorate, the people in the state, decide what they wanted. And so for that reason, we have been gathering signatures for a referendum to be able to put on the ballot in November when we elect the President of the United States. This referendum will be on the ballot, and the people in the state will be able to vote. But in order for that to happen, we needed to do what, ladies?
Get petition signatures.
That's right. That's right. And so that's why we are having this discussion today, because this is critical. People are saying, oh, we already have everything we need, but you never get just enough of anything. You keep pushing ahead. You do everything you can. You involve people so they can be a part of the movement that we've created. And these ladies are going to share with you what they've been doing in order to get us to the number of signatures that we have to date and to continue that process. So I'm going to turn this over to Sharon. I understand that she has some information that she's going to share with us.
I gather you would like me to now show the slides?
I would like you to now show the slide.
Okay, so let me get in here, share. Okay, I gave this presentation this last week for another group, and I'd done it also about a month ago for another group. So there's several people that have already seen this. What we're going to be talking about today is 1, finding signers, 2, finding and caring for us and supplying our volunteers, and our step-by-step process in making the whole thing happen, and the fact that Claire and I are here to help. And I have to say, Holly is too, because she's the one that appointed us to do all of this. So anything you can do to harass her, be my guest. Okay, so who we are. Well, Claire Corden and I, Sharon Cotter, were appointed by Holly Lyon to be head of the AA Arizona Abortion Access Program for Saddlebrook. What we were supposed to do is to collect the signatures from as many people as possible. Our community is about 9,000 people, and our original target was to collect 4,000 signatures. A little bit overly ambitious. We used our list of postcard volunteers from 2020 as a start. We did not start from scratch. Claire and I have been working with a number of people for at least the last 4 years, actually a bit longer than that. It started out with a group of 5 of us, and we all brought in friends and relatives and so on and so forth to get started, and we used the volunteers from that to continue this project this time. We've now had 54 Saddlebrook volunteers trained. Of those, 48 were women, 6 were men, and unfortunately we had 4 that had to drop out for personal reasons. So we've been having 50 that have been very active. Where we are now, well, our volunteers have hosted 46 open houses. Now, what we mean by an open house is they make their house available from the front porch, so someone can come to their house and sign the petition. And they put up a sign out front to encourage people to come, and we let people know ahead of time it's going to be happening. We had 5 of those volunteers opt to not do any open houses, but rather they preferred to do canvassing or direct contact. As of March 15th, we had 1,920 signatures, but we have 14 additional sheets coming in, so there's over 200 signatures yet to come in. I just haven't had a chance since I just returned from vacation. Who wants to sign these AAA petitions? Well, it's a lot more people than you'd think. Everybody told me that this was going to be impossible because Saddlebrook is a Republican stronghold. Wrong. First of all, you go after the low-hanging fruit. There's always have those petitions with you. Talk to people you know, tell them and ask them to tell other people about what you're doing. If you belong to a social group or a church group or a club, take it to them. Activity groups, softball, pickleball, golf, bowling, and mahjong, and bocce ball and card clubs are all very excellent places to search. We had a couple that worked the bocce ball courts and did very well with that. We've had a number of card clubs approached, and all of them have worked pretty well. The community activities such as swap meets, arts and crafts shows, gatherings, celebrations, and libraries can also be done. For myself, I've been to a couple of arts and crafts shows, and I've tried the libraries as well. The rest of our members have tried all of them. The main thing to remember is ask, don't push, don't argue, and always stay friendly. You don't want to start an argument, you just want their signature. Sometimes you'll end up asking just individuals and not the entire group. Well, maybe if you have your petition in the car or set down underneath your purse or coat when you arrive, you can do so comfortably. Um, it isn't a big production then, and people don't feel so put off. There's more approaches to finding signers. As I said, one of the things we've been doing is tabling in open garages or on driveways. That's effectively our open houses. And then we use a small sign to indicate it's a support for women's health, or more specifically for the abortion access. We have an open house or at a community or park at specific times and in specific days, exactly things like Saturdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can advertise in advance. You can drop cards at doors or use tubing as we do here in Saddlebrook. We'll come back to tubing because it's been very important in the way we progress here. And tell everyone you know to tell everyone else they know. You can announce it on Nextdoor. That has a wider spread than just our community and has turned out to be a good source of signatures. You can send emails to your friends. Here we do in emails primarily to people who are relatively local, or you can do the tubing, which I said we'd mention later. Some approaches to finding signers. We live in a senior community, and there's always good things like happy hours and meal times. But even more importantly, if you go to assisted living communities, those are particularly important. Reason being, seniors often feel like no one's paying attention to their opinions. And so I had used this, and the first time I went, I got 60 signatures in one evening. The thing is, all of them said they wanted people to realize how important they were to the process as well. We have a couple of people that are going to professional groups and associations. We've tried people going to the GYN doctors. We've tried going to the lawyers associations. There's also many women's groups or PTOs. Any place you volunteer and people know you, or you can do strange things like I did. Go to the medical appointment waiting room. It's amazing. While I was sitting there, I was there for 12 hours for my husband's appointment. And during that time, I managed to pick up everybody in the room until I made the terrible mistake of asking the person at the desk, who then told me I couldn't do it anymore. So if you do use waiting rooms, don't ask, just keep going and stay low key. You can canvass in your neighborhood. We have, as I said, 5 people that have chosen to canvass rather than do open houses. Jerry Morris is one of our stars, and he has collected 225 signatures doing that. If you're in a protected area, such as our own community of Saddlebrook, you can give your business card to signers with your contact information so they can send their friends to sign. I have also had very good luck with this one. I've handed out business cards and had 10 people call me based on those cards. Ask everyone that provides you with any kind of service. Among other things, they're reluctant to turn you down for fear they'll lose your business, and they'll usually sign. Picked up a few that way as well. Okay, now, none of us can do this by ourselves. It's extremely important to find volunteers. So how did we do that? Well, we asked friends and signers if they know anyone who might sign or who would be willing to collect signatures. The original set, we had over 300 people that worked on various projects for us, and out of those, 54 agreed to the training, and 50 are still collecting signatures for us. Now, that doesn't mean we lost the other 300. Claire and I are also sponsoring a number of other major projects in the community. Claire can talk about those more at the end of the session. If they say yes, we train them. We used a video from Kathy Nichols, and then we supply them with whatever they ask for, and we ask them to return their notarized petition within a month or when full, whichever comes first. We simplified our process because Holly has to receive all of them, and she notarizes all of them. Then you have to organize for success. If you live in an HOA community such as our own, it's probably divided into subunits, or perhaps it's divided into just streets. We assigned volunteers to the units and gave them a list of likely pro-choice voters We got that list of pro-choice from Holly. It's called the Clarity Pro-Choice of 55% or above, and it's on the state van. Holly can talk more about that a little later. We recommend unit table signings before we do canvassing, making a point that it is not partisan, that we try to collect as many Republican signatures as possible, and we have been finding this works quite well. Following the table signings, we ask all of the volunteers to collect signatures from any of the people that are on their turf that have not yet signed. Then we check in with them, ask them for their stories, and then we share successes with the other people in the group. Our process? Well, we contacted all of our volunteers from the last project, and like I said, there were over 300 of those, of which 50 agreed. And we asked which of the projects they wish to work on, whether it be collecting signatures, writing postcards, working on get out the vote, etc. Anyway, those that were interested in the abortion access petition were trained using the modified video from Kathy Nichols. Each volunteer was then assigned a unit to work. And then we gave a standardized packet to each volunteer. We'll go through the contents of that packet here in a few minutes. The packets did start with the turfs, which was the Clarity Pro-Choice 55% and above from the van. This told the volunteer who they were supposed to approach and who they were going to try to get signatures from. The petitions were handed out, and then they were logged in by number and by person, so we could come back later and see where the petitions were at. We assisted with setting up open houses or these table signings and provided materials such as door hangers, yard signs, and suggested tube sheets. Claire has been largely responsible for this and has done an extremely good job. She provided many of the original suggestions on what to put in the tube sheets, and also coordinated with getting the information out to the community. As I said, we require that all signatures be notarized by a single source, Holly Lyon. Only fair since she got us into this, but more specifically, it allowed us to make sure we knew where all of the petitions were, whether they'd been returned or not. Then once a month, I would try to reissue the turf so that people knew who had already signed in their unit. One issue is that even though they are collecting signatures in a unit, people may be signing at the Walmart parking lot or at the Bash's parking lot or having gone to the library last week. And unless we told them who had actually signed, they would be going back to people who we'd already collected the signatures. From that turf, which showed who had signed, we asked them to collect signatures on any of the remaining people in that turf. Now, how did we prepare our volunteers? Well, like I said, we did a training video. We didn't start from scratch. Kathy Nichols had prepared an excellent video, which we then modified for the purposes of our HOA. Our specifics were designed for Saddlebrook because we have specific rules here about what doors you can go to and what locations you can be found at. So all of that was included in the revised video. We had a continuous supply and return location for the petitions. Initially, it was either Claire or I, but we found that was a little confusing. So at this point, I check them out and they return to me. That way we can track all the petition numbers and assure that they've all come back in. For people that are outside of our area and not within our particular group, I've trained 3 people, 2 up in Phoenix and 1 in the southern part of Tucson. Obviously, coming to Holly was unacceptable, so we had to find other businesses for them to get their signatures. In Saddlebrook, though, Holly is both our notary and our hub, so she collects and passes on them. We took the forms that Arizona List provided, including the training form, the petition sign-out forms. We included a legal-size clipboard with pens. And like I said, we provide regular feedback on how the group is doing. That way, we hope to keep them all motivated. Now, as I said, we use the Kathy Nichols training session. The video was modified for our community with things like we took out the comments on wearing abortion t-shirts. 85-year-old grandmas are not going to be wearing abortion t-shirts. So we talked specifically about wear something that makes you look professional and also makes you look approachable. We added a sheet specifically on how our procedure was going to work so everybody would know what to expect and how to go about doing it. And then we specified that single notary and allowed the information, which allowed the information to be fed back to me with the update to update the turfs. We had a question sheet that was summarized with printable sheets. And we had, during the training session from Kathy Nichols, there's a section on why are you here, which encourages all in the group, and it also increases motivation. We found that most people, when they started talking about it, they got more and more emphatic about why it was they were doing this, and that energy carried forward when they went out to start collecting signatures. The materials in the packets were handed out, and we requested that they check in regularly, but if we didn't hear from them, we followed up with them anyway. Now, I've mentioned that packet several times. This is what's in the packet. It starts out with a legal size clipboard with shields and tags and 3 black ink pens. Why 3 black ink pens? You and I both know that you never go anywhere without the ink pen being dry. Several people ask what the shields are. Those are things which we can lay on top of the petition to assure that people stay within the lines. Tags were name tags. Each person was given a turf with their name on it and how many houses they had to approach and how many projected signatures we expected from that group. That came from the Clarity Pro-Choice of 55% and above, which Holly generated from the van. We included 5 copies of the petition. The rule is that if the petition is detached from the signature sheet, the entire signature sheet can be thrown out. So rather than allow them to take it off, we gave them additional copies to hand out, which people could also give to their friends and neighbors to tell them what was going on. We gave them circulation instructions, and we gave them the circulator guidelines that were outlined by LD17. There were instructions that were not within that LD17, so we printed out key instructions specifically for Saddlebrook. We gave them the petition procedure and the rules here in Saddlebrook. And we gave out 4 articles that were very important in getting people to understand what the issue was. We gave them one on reproductive freedom fact sheet. That was generated by the Democratic Club here in Saddlebrook. We included the why now. The issue that was raised in that was next year they intend to prevent us from being able to submit petitions, but there's all sorts of other reasons why it should be now, and so those were all specified. Many people had the wrong idea about who gets abortions, so we handed out a sheet on who gets abortions, showing that it's not 14-year-olds in the back seats of cars. And we also handed out one that rang really true with seniors. The fact that doctors are leaving states where there's anti-abortion laws. That included doctors not only that were doing abortions, but also gynecologists who might inadvertently cause an abortion and could be sent up on charges. We also handed out 5 declarations for people with disabilities. We found that the disability sheet was a bit confusing, so we modified it slightly to give space for people to sign, and then included a sheet to explain how that all worked. And then, because people can only vote for this petition after it gets on, if they're registered voters, Claire had a set of voter registration cards printed up, which we included in each one of the volunteers' packets, and we'd have 5 to 10 in each of those. We also provided a yard sign the day of the home signings. We originally had 1, but the home signings kept coming in 2s and 3s, so we ended up having to print a second one. Now, if you're looking at it, this is what the volunteer gets in their packet. The first page is the volunteer's name, and it tells what unit they're involved in, which turf that is identified with, how many doors they're going to have to knock on, and how many people they should expect to get from their unit. This turned out to be way under the correct number because we've been getting so many Republicans as well. These were all Democrats listed with the turf. Inside the turf pack, it shows where they would find these people. And this is what it looks like. Now, what you're seeing here is actually a page from a turf. It shows all of the people that we expect to sign in the original set. It shows information like where they're located, their gender, their party. So we know a little bit about the person before we go to the door. What you're seeing in addition here are, this is what happens after I get the turfs in and find out who has signed. Anybody in yellow has already signed, and so when it goes out the next time, they know not to go there. These people in red are people we had not anticipated coming in. They are Republicans or people that have moved in recently, or any reason they would not have been originally found in that 55% plus. Now, we tell our volunteers, don't argue with potential signers. We encourage the volunteers to ask, but if they're declined, we thank them and ask, we thank the people that we're approaching and simply walk away. Try to be pleasant about it. Suggest that they have a lovely front yard or something of that nature so it ends on a good tone. They may come back later. However, when volunteers are meeting with a group and they want to say a few words first, we want them to have the basic information about that issue. So we have copies of the petition. We have the 4 talking sheets that I mentioned earlier. And we encourage them to learn as much as possible about it so they can answer questions. And we always tell them, never answer a question you don't know the answer to. Just say you can point them in the direction. We also request that they make sure that they point out it's a nonpartisan issue. But it's, rather than being a partisan issue, it's a matter of freedom and rights that we've already lost due to a Supreme Court ruling. This has been useful because, as I said, we're actually getting a number of Republicans coming in on this. They seem to think that their children have sex too. Imagine. In our senior communities, there's a number of people that have trouble signing for themselves. Many of our people are past 70, including myself. So we provide a number of declaration sheets along with the instructions. I mentioned the talking sheets. Here they are. This is the Facts for Reproductive Freedom that was generated by the Democratic Club here in Saddlebrook. It is accurate for anybody in the state. I mentioned that the idea of the doctors being driven away because of this and the fact that there's in fact gynecologists being driven away, which concerns seniors. This is an article with the reference on where I found the information, and the article is printed.
I think you mean oncologists, right?
What did I say?
Gynecologists.
Gynecologists and oncologists. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyway, well, the gynecologists do the abortions, the oncologists inadvertently do them with chemotherapy. Anyway, we also wanted to make sure that people realize this is not just 14-year-olds. So we have a publication called The Typical Patient. And we realize the typical patient is already a mother. She's in her late 20s. She's attended some college. She has a low income. She's probably not married. She's in her first 6 weeks of pregnancy, and she's having her first abortion. The probability is she lives in a blue state. Now, why in a blue state? That's where she can get the procedures done. Why now? This explains why it is so critically important that we get this done now. Those are all involved in our packet, and if anyone is interested, they can be sent out to you. Our community has a lot of other volunteers. We have tubers. Tubers are people that volunteer to place notices of signing location in the Saddlebrook tubes. So when a unit decides to have their signing party, we put an invitation in the tube. It's like a mailbox, but it's below the U.S. mailbox, and we're allowed to put other things in there. By the way, you cannot put this sort of thing in a U.S. mailbox because it has to have a stamp on it to do so. We have other people doing writing. We have one particular volunteer, Karen Chickadance, who writes articles for the Saddlebrook 2 newspapers, and she also does occasional articles for the Tucson paper. She's highly qualified because she used to be an editor. We have adjunct volunteers that are not residents of Arizona. As such, they cannot carry the petition nor can they sign the petition, but they can help with the promotion of signings. And there's other jobs that are not available for non-residents. Okay, I mentioned the letters, the documents that go out either as emails or as tubes. Here is an example of one. Dear whatever unit, nonpartisan, the location, and who's putting it on. The HOA 2 requires that we include our own personal name, our email, and our phone number. That's not necessary outside of the HOAs. We also provide a sign. This is a sign. It's large enough to be seen as you drive by it. It's a 16 by 24. Now, handling the petitions, Holly acts as our hub. She picks up all the petitions downtown and brings them back and gives them to Claire and I to distribute throughout Saddlebrook. So we give them to the volunteers. When we give them to the volunteers, we track all of the information about the date they got it, who the volunteer is, how to contact them, and the petition numbers, so we can go back later and find out if we haven't received a petition, if they can please turn it in. When the volunteer completes a sheet of petitions, she takes it to Holly to notarize. Holly, or her assistant, enters the data into the DEMS statewide database so future canvassers will know not to ask that particular person again. Holly provides the names and the signers and addresses to our team so we can update our volunteer turfs. That's what you saw earlier when you saw the example where they've been yellowed out. And then after the open houses, volunteers are asked to continue collecting signatures of people on their turf. We track each petition that goes out. So for instance, 00760 went to Jerry Morris on the 9th, September 30th of 2023. And so we are able to see when one went out, who had it, and when it comes back, we know how many signatures were valid on that petition. It allows us to keep track of how many total signatures have been collected. So in this particular case, on that particular day, we had 1,359 signatures on 108 petitions. I update the turfs at least once a month and send them back to the volunteers, and you saw how that process worked earlier. In terms of tracking, we track the open house schedule. This has been entirely in Claire's bailiwick. She tracks who is doing the open houses, the dates and times of them, the location, and who the primary target is for that person's open house. We also track the open house schedule. So looking at it from a different direction, we know who has had an open house on what day. Claire has been really productive. As you can see, she had a bunch of them, and so did I. But you can see this was early on in the game, so a lot of people's petitions or their tablings are not shown here. Finally, we do a success sheet, and a success sheet allows us to see each person how many people they have collected signatures through a particular date. So you can see it increased significantly from period to period. This is quite outdated, but you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing is we found that most people are grateful for an opportunity to sign the petition. Most are motivated to collect signatures because they want to see abortion rights restored, and they want women given autonomy over their bodies without government interference. They're really excited to be able to do something. Many of them will tell you stories about how a friend of theirs or they or their family member have had abortions and don't want us to go back to the old ways. People are working together, have additional energy and enthusiasm, and it helps keep people inspired and working, which is why having 50 volunteers works much better than having 2 or 3 volunteers. Claire and I are here to help. If you need any help, if you want any of the documents or forms, or if you want some of the training, this is the information to reach either Claire or I. I must say it would not have been possible without her major work. I just got to do the presentation. Any questions? Go get them.
Oh my goodness. If that isn't a wonderful presentation about the process that you have been using and that others can use? I just don't know what else to say. It was so thorough. It's so well organized. It's so well done. And the proof is in the results that you're getting. Are there any more people to get to sign the petitions up there in Saddlebrook?
Oh, yes.
Not a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
lot. We've made a lot of progress. We're now running into many people that have had it. But yes, there's still, I have not made the 4,000 yet.
Is that really still the goal?
It's the hope.
It's the hope.
It's the hope. It's past the goal at this point.
Well, I'm going to use this language. Faith is being sure of what you hope for. So let's keep the faith.
Yeah. Yep.
Claire, what would you like to add to this?
Well, I would just, as I was listening to Sharon and her excellent presentation, the thought occurred to me, why did we do this? Because as you can see, it was quite involved, but really it was a labor of love. And we started working in the area of politics, I think in 2020 together. And it was just very rewarding to find out how many people in our neighborhood felt the way we did. We didn't know that.
Yeah.
And things got very bad with COVID because we worked through the election, often just meeting remotely via Zoom and that sort of thing. And we saw a lot of Trump flags and so on. And it was a bit between COVID and that whole ordeal, it was a bit demoralizing. But working on this abortion petition, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how rewarding it was to me to meet 50 women I really didn't know who were dynamite. I mean, these are women that had interesting careers, and they were very dedicated to this issue. They weren't hemming and hawing or being embarrassed or shy about the issue. They understand it's an issue of women's rights and women's health care. So it was worth every clipboard we put together and every sheet we ran down to deliver to somebody. It was a very inspiring and a very rewarding experience. So as I said, I had no idea I would be working in politics in my retirement. I came from a blue state where I didn't even have to donate money. And lo and behold, I have found a new avocation that is working. You know, I still have friends from other states that say, oh, Arizona. And I'm like, hey, we delivered,
That's right.
you know,
That's
electoral
right.
votes to Joe Biden.
That's
We
right.
have 2 Democratic.
We're going to do that again.
Yeah.
Yes.
1.5 Democratic senators. So we're doing pretty good.
You
Claire,
know,
would you like to talk about the other projects we've got running right now?
Well,
Because
just
we've got a lot
briefly,
besides just the
yeah.
signatures.
We started in 2020 with a postcard project, and we ended up sending, if you can believe it, 10,000 postcards.
oh my goodness.
We had all of our friends. See, and this is something I think for anybody watching this, if you're living in an HOA or you have some community that you're involved in, this is a great way to network with other people as opposed to cold calling, you know, on the phone and that sort of thing. I mean, this is actually fun. So we've developed this list of volunteers, and we have given them addresses and scripts and all that sort of thing. And we're doing another postcard project this year, which is to supplement or complement the abortion petition. So we're targeting likely unregistered people in Arizona and advising them that if they care about abortion, they need to register to vote, and then they need to vote for the petition. And so people love postcards. It's easy. You can get them done quickly. And so we've got a whole team that's working on postcards, and we'll be doing other postcards after this petition hopefully is accepted for the ballot to get the vote out in November. So
You know, I love this because this is like organizing gold that you have
Yeah,
explained today.
yeah,
First, just reaching out to people,
right. Mhm.
really waking them up after COVID and insanity, and
Exactly,
see something and
exactly.
they're like, oh,
Yeah.
something
Well, and
we
then
can.
we found out that the state isn't full of MAGA waving people, flag waving people. So,
Comforting.
and I think we're starting to come together. We're actually seeing people that are organizing social events for liberal minded people in Saddlebrook, which is often the butt of jokes. When I go to, like concerts downtown, they're always talking about, Saddlebrook like it was some, very red thing, but we're changing that. And it's been very fun and rewarding. And there are a lot of great people who
Yes.
A, care about women's rights, and B, love our country and care about democracy.
And what you're doing is to organize, you're organizing them and giving them a way to be connected to something
Right.
that it sounds like they wanted to be connected to anyway. They just needed someone to pay attention or ask or wake them up so that they
Yes, you're
could.
absolutely right. I mean, a lot of these people have never, like me, they'd never done anything like this
Oh,
before. And we showed them that it was easy and fun. And it was a way to connect with other people and meet people. And it's just been a great social process too.
sometimes I think we forget about human nature when we're doing things
Mhm.
in our lives, and everybody wants to be seen.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been seen for a while and someone knocks on your door and sees you and acts like you're important or sends you something and recognizes that you exist, you have an automatic connection to them. So
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
lot easier to share information with them. This is
Right.
a beautiful example of why this is so important, especially as you said, Claire, after COVID,
Mhm.
after the craziness that we've been seeing on television and everywhere else we go, people want a reason to be involved in something good.
Yeah. And they want to associate with other like-minded people. They're
Yes.
they're frankly concerned that, the world's gone crazy and they don't know where the normal people are.
Yeah. So how about you up there, quiet Holly, who's really the instigator of all of this?
Right. She's
Would
got
you
us into
like
this
to
fine
add to
mess.
this discussion?
Well, I understood when I asked Claire and Sharon to do this, and they would dispute the word ask. But
Let me explain. Claire and I went to a meeting and we're quietly sitting there paying no attention to what was going on. And then we hear our name goes by and Holly says, oh, Claire and Sharon are going to be collecting the petitions here in Saddlebrook. And what?
well, one of the wonderful things about them is that they live 2 houses away from each other. So that's one of the reasons they are such a dynamite team. And proximity really does count. They have a lot of things in common, like photography and stuff like that. So I knew it would go, and I knew it would go smoothly. But it's really important for me to tie. I tied everything back to LD17, and that was basically, I tried to be their little narrow thread that fed back to LD17, because I didn't want them to be uh anything other than nonpartisan.
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure they stayed nonpartisan in their approach, because I know there are a lot of old-fashioned Republicans who are more than willing to sign this petition.
Yes.
But I also needed to kind of relay to them the parameters that LD17 was using. And that was that all the Democrats, we're looking for all the Democrats and all of the other people who were at least 55% likely to believe in abortion access for women, put it that way. And to vote for that. So, and that's why I do all the running of the petitions around, because I don't want them involved in that. I don't want them to, I want them to know it's there and to feel part of the family. but not feel so much a part of the family that, you know, it rubs off into this is a whole Democratic endeavor, because it's not. And what's really, really important is that getting it on the ballot is the stage we're in right now. But once it gets on the ballot, then we have to get all of those people who signed to vote for it.
Yes.
And there's so many people who signed that we never expected, as Claire and Sharon have both said. And at some point, we're going to have to go back to them. And I don't know, you know, how we're going to do that exactly, but we need to go back to those people and say, you know, hey, you signed on to this, and now here it is, and it's going to be prop whatever number, and that's going to be an important number, so that we can advertise. And I will go back to LD17 and watch what are the tools that they make available for us to do that advertising. So it all comes, you know, it's one great big huge family. I tell you, one of the things, Darrell, it's been so much fun is I, you know, I go down to Arizona List to drop off petitions, signed petitions and notarized, etc., once a week. And, you know, I've rendezvoused with you and picked up petitions.
Yes.
I go down there on my way back. I pick up more petitions from, you know, Sue Anderson.
Right.
I pick up blank petitions from Arizona List and drop them. I mean, I feel like this little bird, you know, that flies over and feeds everybody. And it makes me feel part of the community too. It's just a wonderful feeling, part of the team.
I love that you said it goes back to LD17. We're all part of this wonderful family that the people who decided to chop up and divide the legislative district to make it easier for certain people to win elections, they didn't know what they were doing. They created they had no idea what they had done. What they actually did was help us organize and be ready for everything this year. And I'm going to say thank you for thinking you were so smart as to fix it for yourselves. But look at what we've done. Look at what we're doing. We have you just said it all. Catherine Nichols, which is Kathy with a C, I'll just tell you that, is the executive director of Arizona List, and she is really the hub for what's happening in this state with this AAA petitions. There are other organizations involved, ACLU and a lot of other Planned Parenthood, but let's be clear about this. And yes, I'm on Arizona List Board. I'm going to just tout it, but I know what they do because I'm involved in a weekly meeting where there is an ongoing report of where we are, where we're going, what we need to do. This organization has had as their mission to elect Democrats, yes, it's partisan, women up and down the ballot who believed in a woman's right to choose. So at the heart of their mission has always been abortion, freedom, and access. So this year, they are the lead on everything. And trust me, it has made a big difference because they were already organized and they fed into the process. And more importantly, they have tentacles in everywhere. And Holly, you just said it all. They're within our legislative district. They have brought you in. Hey, Claire and Sharon, they brought you in and said, hey, make a presentation to all our people. Let them learn from you. We're all in this together. And that's so encouraging. It's so encouraging.
Well, I guess I would also say that we've enjoyed the flexibility of just working with each other, Sharon and I, and Holly. And I think, you know, for LD 11 or 17 to know that, you know, people can be out doing all kinds of stuff and they may not come to your monthly meeting. You know, maybe they don't want to come to a meeting, but they'd love to get together and, you know, do a postcard signing party. And I think also encouraging more social activities among Democrats and giving us a sense of esprit de corps.
Yes.
Because, you know, really, I think, you know, we've underestimated the social impact of COVID.
Would you please say that again? Having more what? What did you just say we needed more of?
Social activity.
Say it one more time so all the Democrats that I'm going to send this to can hear that. Need more what?
Activities.
Esprit de corps.
To bring us together, to feel the energy.
Yeah.
Thank
you. But
you.
you don't have to go to a meeting to do that because a lot of people don't want to go to meetings.
No, they don't want to listen. They just want to
Yeah.
have fun.
They want to have fun or feel like they're doing something, you know,
That's
and they're like, okay, I'll come over to your house and pick up some postcards and I'll do it. And that's all they want to do. You know, they don't want to spend an hour in a meeting, but they might open up their house for an open house and, you know, call their friends and go to their book club and ask people to sign. And you let them do it the way they want to do it. I mean, we had people going to bowling alleys. I mean, I haven't gone bowling since I was a kid.
me
And this
either.
woman was pulling in all kinds of signatures, you know. She was having bowlers follow her out into the parking lot and say, can I sign your petition? You didn't ask me.
But
You know,
you know, now Holly hinted on something. We have about 2.5, little less than a half months to get all the signatures that we're going to get for this referendum. But and we know we're probably there, or close to there, or over there. We're not going to even project. We're just saying we're not going to stop until the time is up.
Yeah.
But the minute that's over, we've got to switch gears and go straight towards educating, informing, getting people to understand how to vote on November 5th for this very important issue that they signed up for. So we're going to do part 2 of this conversation. I want you ladies to start thinking about some of those social things you'd like to see. We're going to keep talking about this and find more ways to energize our electorate, so they will be excited about voting in November.
Yeah.
Darrell, there's one thing that happens before that, though.
What is that?
When we get to the number, we have to celebrate with all of our volunteers.
Okay.
We have to motivate them to get going for the next half. It's very important they get the feedback and feel like, wow, I did something.
So what would you like to have happen? Tell me. Let's get it on this tape.
We're going to have a party here in Saddlebrook.
Come, please, let me come.
Yes, of course,
I don't know, maybe.
I'm going to crash. Holly will let me come, won't you?
Yep. You'll be my special guest.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, that's a plan. We're going to celebrate. And I promise you, ladies, this has been wonderful. I could ask a million questions, but you've answered everything. I just want people to listen, to pay attention, and then to go do it wherever they can.
Let's get this done.
Let's get this done. Let's get this done. I have to say,
let's do it.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Arizona Lists. Thank you, LD17, and everybody who's watching. Share this video. You've got really some good, important information from Legislative District 17 in the southern part of the state of Arizona, in the county of Pima, working hard to do what? Turn
Arizona blue.
Blue. Thank you so much for listening, ladies. Thank you for participating.
Thank you, Daryl.